Good morning, everybody. It's another beautiful day. Wanted to come this morning with another angle of the why of the move and breathe. Why is this part of my daily routine? Why is it so important? What's going on here? I want to come at another angle today and try to explain about the heart. The heart is the real you, okay? Deep down in here, not in your head, but in your heart. And we use these, the physical heart as sort of an understanding of the deeper place, the center of who you are. You have an image of yourself. You've got, the Bible calls it your own understanding, and you can't just get to it and change it whenever you want to, right? That's why you can say, hey, I need to go on a diet, or I need to eat a certain way, I need to lose a certain amount of pounds, and your volitional will, see, that's your chooser, your volition can say, yeah, okay, we'll set a program and we'll do it. Well, funny thing, it doesn't always work out, right? Or it doesn't last. Now, why is that? Because the deeper part of you, the heart, believes things about you that are not lining up with these changes. Okay, so the heart is, to use a metaphor, it's like a temperature gauge. Okay, everybody's got that in their home. They got that panel that, changes the temperature of the home. And then once you have that gauge set, the system will kick on or off to keep that house temperature where you've set it. Okay, now think about it in that way. You've got a personality. This is your personal reality. Your personality has been developed over many years. And but in this situation, we all have been, in public buildings where that temperature gauge will be there, but it'll be covered and under lock and key. So anybody coming through just can't decide on a whim, I want to change the temperature in this building. No, it's under lock and key. There's only certain people that get to touch it. Well, your heart is like that, except it is under lock and key, period. You can't just get in there and change your identity and what you think about yourself. It is under lock and key. I mean, just think about it. If it were that simple to do, I mean, we'd lose our minds. We're way too complicated a being to go messing with the heart to that degree. It would get us out of the type of constancy of a framework of beliefs that keep us stable. I mean, we're very fragile when it comes to our beliefs and what is reality, and that's why you can go through real trauma when certain things occur. However, let me stick with the point here. So your heart is under lock and key, and so what you really believe about you is what you're going to be living out. In fact, that's why you do what you do every day. That's the type of person you are. Some people are known to be really, really hard workers. Some people are known to be lazy. Some people are known to be this, and some people are known to be that. See, that's because their own heart, their temperature gauge, so to speak, is set at a certain setting, and so they live that out. They live that lifestyle out. They don't even have to try to. It's who they are. They're not even having to use their willpower, their volitional willpower, to do some of those things. They just do them. Because that is an identity. That's what they say about themselves, and so their body is ready to run with that, and so they do it. And so when we're talking about the move and breathe, what we're talking about ultimately is transforming yourself. In other words, you see there's some areas in your life, there's some things that you're doing habitually that are not helpful. They're hurting you. And so when you're going to try to correct those changes to make them right, you find out these are not coming easily. There's some things I cannot change. I can't change this. Again, it's because your heart is under lock and key and you can't get to it. Now, your volitional will, you can come up with all kinds of plans and things you want to do every day. The new diet, the new workout program, the new this or the new that. You can come up with that in your head all the time and say, yeah, I'm going to do this. But you run into your heart that says, that's not me. We're not doing that. We don't believe that. And so you can get frustrated with why not the change? Well, here we go. This is the reason for the move and breathe, what I've found to be critical for change and biblical also. You know, you could go to the life of Abraham in the Bible. We know Abraham was the father of many nations. Now we know that. Millions and millions of people globally call Father Abraham father because that's the legacy that he left. Okay, Judaism calls him father. Christianity calls him father. Islam calls him father. Millions of people across the globe, maybe billions, probably billions of people on the planet today call Abraham, this guy Abraham, father. Now, why is that? Well, let's look at his story. See, because in the Bible, before he became Abraham, he was Abram. He's just a guy, you know, just a normal guy. But here comes God. God starts a relationship with him, and in the course of events, changes his name, because God says, look, I've got a vision for you that you don't have. And I'm ready to add myself, God says, to you. And that's that he, the spirit, the ham, the Abraham. It's the he on the end of Abram's name that was added. That is the Spirit of God added to a man. Okay, and so with that addition of the he to Abram, Abram becomes Abraham, the father of many nations, because God said that's who you are. That's how you're known in heaven. That is your eternal, that's the you that I know you to be. And so Abram goes through this many years. It was years and years and years, because his wife was barren, Sarah, and Sarah gets a hey at the end of her name too. You need to look this up. See, because Sarah gets added to her the Spirit as well, which is a new identity. And so here's the process that Abram goes through. It's years and years and years, okay? Because what has to happen for Abram is that he's got to get in his heart that he's the father of many nations. Okay? But he doesn't believe that about himself. Just like you and I don't believe the things that God says about us, Abram didn't believe the things that God said about him. But here's the things Abram had going for him. He had an encounter with God, several of them, and they were big. I mean, in other words, a supernatural being shows up in some form or fashion and speaks to you. Now, if that happens to you, I can promise you that's going to leave a mark. Right? Whether it's a fantasy, a hallucination, whatever, if you believe that something showed up, that's going to be a lot of fear, or possibly a lot of pleasure, or possibly a lot of both. But it's going to be an intense thing. It's going to be intense emotion, and it's going to be added to the information along with it. So in Abram's situation, you're talking about God showing up, and which would be intensely emotional. God has his attention, and then he gives him information. He says, you are going to be the father of many nations. He actually gives him a covenant and tells him all kinds of things that are going to happen. 7 promises that God says, me coming into your life means this. You're becoming a new person, and this is what your life means. This is who you are now. So Abram goes through, I think it's a 25-year process. I believe that's right. Don't quote me on that. But it's a lot of years of trying to get there, trying to believe. So here's what he has working for him, though. He has these moments where this God shows up, intense emotion and interpretation of events, meaning I'm telling you, you are this now. So he has that, and it's left a mark. In other words, he's thinking about that a lot. He's rehearsing in his mind that event. Now, God helped him even more, though, and he gave him a daily regimen, a daily ritual that would help him get this vision that is a spiritual vision of himself into his life, into his being, into his image of himself. And so he tells him this. He says, you see the sand the sand all around you in the day, your descendants are going to be that many. As many as there are, kernels of sand, or whatever you call a little piece of sand, as many of those are, that's going to be how many descendants come from you. Okay, remember that. And then he says at night, look up in the sky, look at all the stars. You're going to have that many descendants. So what does that mean for Abram? It means that he's going to be repetitively thinking about, first of all, his encounter with this being God who has left a mark. Those things left a mark. In other words, he's drawn to think about that because of what happened and the information that came with it. So he's repetitively going to be firing and wiring new things in his mind. See, he's building a map. That's the physiology. And then every day and night, so day and night, and again, this could go to the Joshua 1:9. Every day, meditate on these things. See, why? Because you got to repetitively do this. You got to fire and wire until you become this in your heart. See, it bypasses the head. The head is a gateway into the heart, but you got to get into the heart. So he's getting into looking at this every day. Every time he gets up and sees the sand, he's reminded, this is what God said about me. He looks up at the stars at night. This is what God said about me. And it took him years, but what Romans 4 says about his life is that he's the father of faith. It's the faith of Abraham that in Christianity we're to be living from. See, that's principle based, and so Abraham was the guy that called those things that be not as though they were. See, he was calling forth a vision of himself that wasn't real yet. It wasn't here. It wasn't the him that was showing up every day. He wasn't a father. He wasn't the father of many nations. And yet he was fighting that fight of transformation. And as God does, God can take a dead thing and say it's alive, and it can be alive. It would be alive if he wanted to. And we are image bearers. We are like him. We don't have the power to start that type of thing and just speak it with our own words, but we can repetitively imitate God because we have the capacity that if we fight that fight and do it repetitively and we get in the heart, we realize this is not a head thing, this is a heart thing. Whatever's in your head is coming from your heart. See, so you want to aim at the root. And so the move and breathe is that. It's aiming at the root, the heart, getting into the heart and changing your identity and changing what your heart believes about you. Because once you've influenced your heart to believe something new, you'll do it naturally, normally, easily. Your values are revealed in your habit patterns. That just is what it is. You're doing what you believe, what you really believe. You're consistently doing what you really believe. See, so you got to get into the heart where the temperature gauge is set to change it. And see, that's what Abraham did. And he became the father of many nations because he fought the fight of faith, and he walked with God in that change over the long haul. And so listen, guys, this doesn't have to be, for instance, if you're wanting to make some dietary changes, if you realize that you're just not eating well consistently. The reason why you're not eating well is because your heart is pining away. David says that in Psalm 6. He says, God, take it easy on me, please. Don't thrash me in your anger, for my heart is pining away. I'm pining away here. And what pining means is that you're just kind of suffering and wasting away because of a broken heart. And see, so all of us are doing that. Deep down inside of our being, we are broken. We know how far the heart understands, in some sense, how far we've fallen. And it's hurting because of that. It's hurting. And because it's not able to connect clearly and powerfully and just get in God's presence and communicate with nothing in between. Because in this world, it's like a buffer zone. The world and this fallen world and our fallen nature, it's like it's trying to keep us from God. That's why we have to be so awake to it every day seeking it, trying to clear away all of the mess to really encounter God. And it's a fight. You really got to, it's why it has to be repetitive. And so your heart is pining away because it's broken. Now, what does that mean? It means that, you know, we have energy centers in our bodies. The Eastern people know way better about how the human body's made from the spiritual side of things. And they'll explain there's energy centers and how energy flows through the body. And 3 of the big ones are primal, okay? They have to do with food and drink, because you got to eat to survive, right? We're talking about life or death here. Eating is a big deal. It's a primal desire because it has to do with your life and staying alive. Now, we're tricked by this in the West because we have so much food. You've never gotten up probably in your life and seriously been worried about finding enough food to stay alive. You haven't. But that doesn't change the fact that that issue about food is a big deal. It's a primal desire, and it's going to be manipulated by a fallen world because of that. So if you got a broken heart and you have this desire, a primal desire to eat, well, the enemy's going to use that against you. And see what, so a broken heart is down in here, and it's saying all the time, it's saying, oh, I'm in so much pain. Would you get me something that'll make me feel better? And so we do. We go find us a pizza, we go find us some ice cream, we go find us some things that's going to taste a certain way and hit certain spots in the brain that are going to temporarily make us feel good. But in the long haul, see, the sin, so to speak, it's not a sin to eat pizza, but you got to follow me here. When you're indulging in any activity to try to get something out of it because your heart's broken in here, you're going to do things that aren't good for you over the long haul. And so sex is another one. Reproduction is a big deal. That's how you continue your line. And there's powerful desire attached to it. And so it's used against us. We think that if we can kind of stir up that desire and get a satisfaction, a fulfillment by some act of sex, that, again, that's something that feels good in the moment, but it's a backlash in the end because you're destroying what that desire is really for within a committed relationship, and it's going to get out of whack. See, but all of that comes from, whoa, look out, all that comes from these deep, deep desires. And the broken heart is being manipulated to make bad choices consistently because it's trying to get its needs met. And see, so the move and breathe is a portion of, you've got to have a relationship with God that you're really looking deeper into how He really does see you. Because once you line up with that, like Abraham did, you're going to know Him. You're going to get a fulfillment that you haven't had, and you need more of it. And I don't care where you are in your Christian life, this does not end. If you've kind of turned the volume down on transformation in your life, it's only because you've gotten to a certain level and you can look around to other people and say, you know what, I'm good. Compared to them, I'm good. Because that's what we do. That's what the ego does. And then it turns down some of these spiritual disciplines that can continue to connect you with God's view of you and what He really wants of your life, that's going to continue this process of growth, okay? And then once you level out there, you're just going to finish out doing things that, certain things that are not good for you. They're not lined up with ultimate truth. And so the move and breathe is a daily part of a system in which you are opening up your heart. See, the only way you get to your heart consistently is that you get out of beta. That's the high beta brain waves where you're blowing and going in the day and you're making decisions and you're going for it. It's when you've got to get into alpha, which is where your heart begins to open up. You begin to get information into the part of you that is making all the decisions, and that information, the truth about what God says about you, is satisfying. Oh, it's peace, it's love, it's joy, it's relief. And so you're making that transfer, and with it you're seeing what He says about you And then you're taking that vision, that spirit addition to your name, you're becoming a new being, and you're integrating it into reality. And that's what the move and breathe does. Once you get that vision, you get clear about it again, you're seeing things the way God sees them, and now you're speaking things that be not as though they were, and you're building a new roadmap. And the whole purpose of this whole thing is God doesn't need change in this world. He doesn't need us to be world changers for him. He just wants us. And it's in the process of finding him every day and believing him and leaning into what he has to say and knowing him heart to heart. That's what he wants. That's what he's after. And see, so our hearts become one with his, and that is ultimate fulfillment. And consequently, you will change the environment that you're in if you do that, to whatever degree God needs you to. Some of us have 5-talent life. Some of us have a 1-talent life. The effect of your life is nothing to do with it. That's God's business. He'll take care of that. Billy Graham's not getting a greater inheritance in heaven because he touched the millions and the masses while he was here. He was geared to do that. He was wired to be a 5-talent guy. And he faithfully walked with God and plugged into this development I'm talking about, and the effect of it was a 5-talent effect. But somebody with 1 talent's not going to be sitting in heaven going, oh, I wish God had given me 5 talents. No, this has everything to do with how much love you integrate, how much intimacy with the Father that you have. It's not about the effect of it. That's God's business. What we must do is know God and have our hearts united with him, so that pining away heart, our pining away life, would be satisfied. So that's what the move and breathe is really about. It's a daily habit. It's a daily ritual. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. So I think this one was a little too long today, but I'm really encouraging myself here. We're all in this together, guys, but we got to stay on point in terms of transformation and change. So again, seek the face of God. See what he has to say about you. He'll show you what your true desires are, because he placed those things within you. And then you got to get into habits on a daily measure, on a daily regiment, that don't become legalistic. Don't do it out of just routine, dry, dutiful routine. You got to come to life in the Lord, and then integrate that life that he shows you into your thought patterns, into your actions. And you're going to have to use a little bit of your volitional will, but over the long haul, it'll get into your heart more and more and more, and then you don't have to use volitional will. You've only got so much volitional will every day. So you can only do so much changing, okay? You've got to let the Lord into your heart and let him change you over the long haul. But the point is that you're getting tied to him along the way, which is really what this is all about. So work at it today. Smile, breathe, exercise, treat yourself well, and love the people that God's given you to love. Bless you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.